The fluorescent lights of the cubicle farm hummed, an oppressive drone against the quiet click of keyboards. Elias Thorne, once Major Thorne, a decorated Air Force intelligence analyst, felt his stomach clench. Across the polished concrete floor, his supervisor, a man named Henderson, whose tie was always too tight, pointed a finger directly at him. "Thorne, my office." "Never Dodge." The words, sharp and public, cut through the office chatter like a sonic boom. Every head, every pair of eyes, swiveled. Elias, still reeling from the email that had just landed in his inbox, a termination effective immediately, gross insubordination, pushed away from his desk. The cheap plastic chair scraped against the floor, a sound that seemed amplified in the sudden, uncomfortable silence. He knew this was about the anomaly, the ghost in the machine, the spectral signature he'd flagged just 3 days ago, the one they dismissed as a calibration error. As he walked past the rows of averted faces, past the whispers that followed him like a heat signature, he felt the familiar bitter burn of injustice. His career, his reputation, everything he'd built, dissolving in the sterile, unforgiving air of a corporate office. Hours later, the dust-choked wind whipped at his civilian clothes. He stood beside a desolate stretch of highway, the shimmering heat distorting the horizon into a mirage. The sun, a brutal disk in the cerulean sky, beat down mercilessly. His duffel bag, a worn canvas relic of deployments past, packed by unseen hands and left without ceremony, lay at his feet. The old beat-up sedan he'd driven here, his last tangible link to a normal life, was gone, towed away without a word, leaving only tire tracks in the fine red dust. He was adrift, literally and figuratively, under an indifferent desert sky, a man exiled from his purpose. Then, from the shimmering distance, a vehicle appeared. Not the familiar outline of a taxi or a bus. This was a matte black armored SUV, its windows tinted opaque, moving with a silent, predatory grace that spoke of purpose and power. No license plates. No discernible markings. It slowed, then stopped, its engine a barely audible thrum, right beside him. The rear door hissed open. No one emerged. Just an empty, dark invitation, a void against the blinding light. Elias Thorne had seen things. More than most. He'd spent 2 decades staring at the world from orbit, sifting through terabytes of raw data. A master of the unseen, his eyes trained to find the needle in the cosmic haystack. From the unforgiving, sand-swept deserts of Afghanistan, where he'd tracked insurgent movements from 1,000 miles up, to the frozen wastes of the Arctic, pinpointing hidden caches, his gaze, enhanced by the most advanced satellite systems, had been the silent vanguard. He'd predicted enemy movements, spotted the telltale shimmer of a hidden ID, before it claimed another life, saved countless lives from a remote console. His reputation in the Air Force had been legendary, a man who could see patterns where others saw only noise, a human anomaly detector. But that was before the forced medical retirement, a stress-related incident they'd called it, after he'd pushed too hard, too long, seen things that didn't fit the official narrative, anomalies that were conveniently swept under the rug. He'd landed at Aegis Solutions, a defense contractor, hoping to continue serving, even if from behind a desk, a civilian in a world of uniforms. It was a comfortable cage, a golden handcuff that kept him tethered to the work he loved, even if the stakes felt lower, the victories less tangible. Until 3 days ago. That's when he'd seen it. A flicker. A spectral anomaly buried deep in a routine atmospheric scan over the Pacific. A signature that defied known physics. A low-energy ripple that shouldn't exist. A ghost in the upper atmosphere. He'd cross-referenced it, run it through his personal unsanctioned algorithms. The ones had developed in his off hours, coded in the quiet solitude of his apartment. The ones designed to look for the impossible. The results were undeniable. Not a glitch. Not a sensor ghost. Something real. And it was moving. Fast. Too fast. He'd taken his findings to Henderson, his supervisor, A man who measured success in quarterly reports and billable hours, not national security. Henderson had scoffed, his fleshy face reddening. Thorne, you're seeing things. Again. This is why you're off active duty, Major. Paranoia. We run standard protocols here. We don't chase phantoms from fringe conspiracy theories. Elias had pressed, his voice rising, the years of suppressed frustration bubbling to the surface like magma. This isn't a phantom, sir. This is a e-signature. It's a pattern. It's a threat. And it's moving at speeds no known conventional aircraft or drone can achieve without a massive detectable energy signature. This is new. This is dangerous. Henderson had cut him off, his eyes narrowed to slitsy. That's enough, Thorne. Your security clearance is under review. Effective immediately, you're suspended. Go home. We'll be in touch. And then, the email. Termination, gross insubordination. Your services are no longer required. The finality of it had been a punch to the gut. The SUV's interior was cool, silent, and smelled faintly of ozone and expensive leather. The doors sealed with a soft, almost imperceptible hiss, cutting him off from the outside world entirely. Elias was alone in the back, the tinted windows offering no view of the shifting desert landscape. He tried the door handle. Locked. He tried the window. Immovable. A single screen glowed on the seat in front of him, displaying a blank map. No GPS coordinates. No indicators. Just a featureless blue expanse, as empty as his immediate future. Minutes stretched into an hour, then another. The vehicle moved with unsettling smoothness, eating up miles of unseen road. His mind raced, cycling through every classified briefing, every black op rumor, every whispered conspiracy theory he'd ever heard during his time in intelligence. Was this an extraction? An interrogation? Had he stumbled onto something truly dangerous, something the public was never meant to know? The thought ignited a spark of grim satisfaction. He'd always known his eyes saw more than they should. He'd always trusted his gut over the official line. Finally, the vehicle slowed, then stopped. The door hissed open again, revealing not the desert, but a cavernous, dimly lit hangar. The air was cool, metallic, and carried the faint scent of jet fuel and something else. Something advanced, almost alien. Two figures stood waiting in the muted light. One, a tall man, in a dark, impeccably tailored suit, with eyes that seemed to miss nothing, sharp and assessing. The other, a woman in a flight suit, her face shadowed, but undeniably familiar. Major Thorne, the man in the suit said, his voice a low rumble that resonated with quiet authority, cutting through the vastness of the hangar. Welcome to Project Ether. Elias stepped out, his duffel bag placed gently beside him by unseen hands, a silent acknowledgement of his limited possessions. Project Ether, he repeated, his voice raspy from disuse and the dry desert air. I've never heard of it. And I thought I had access to every classified project designation. Chiane. The woman stepped forward, her features emerging from the shadows. You wouldn't have, Elias. Her voice. It hit him like a physical blow, a ghost come to life. Sarah? Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen. His former wingmate, his co-pilot on countless reconnaissance missions, presumed lost in a classified incident over the Black Sea 2 years ago. Her official record stated killed in action, non-recoverable audio. He'd mourned her. He'd even attended her memorial service, stood ramrod straight as the flag was folded for her parents' say. The grief had been real. Now she stood before him, alive. Sarah, what in God's name? Elias stammered, disbelief warring with a sudden overwhelming surge of hope and confusion. She offered a small knowing smile, a flicker of the old Sarah in her eyes. Long story. One we'll get to. But first, Captain Kalen Vance wants a word. She gestured to the man in the suit. He's the one who pulled you from the fire, Elias. Literally. Captain Vance's gaze was unwavering, piercing. Major Thorne, 3 days ago. A signature that, according to your civilian superiors, was a calibration error. Is that correct? None. Elias straightened, the military discipline, ingrained over decades, kicking in automatically. Yes, sir. It was no error. It was a distinct, repeating signature. Low frequency, high altitude, and moving with extreme velocity. Too fast. Too silent. Wonayi? Vance nodded slowly, a thoughtful expression on his face. And you were dismissed for it. Fired, sir. Publicly. My security clearance revoked. My reputation shredded. Elias added, the words still tasting bitter, a fresh wound. That was by design, Major, Vance said, a hint of something like regret, or perhaps just weariness in his eyes. A necessary measure to bring you here without alerting interested parties. Your termination was, in fact, a recruitment. A highly unorthodox one, I grant you. Elias felt the pieces click into place, a sudden, dizzying clarity. The dismissal, the secrecy, Sarah's reappearance. It wasn't random. It was orchestrated. You mean, you knew about the anomaly? You've been tracking it too? No, no way. We've been tracking similar anomalies for the better part of a year, Sarah interjected, her voice now crisp, professional, devoid of the earlier warmth. But your algorithm, your methodology, the way your mind processes visual data, it picked up a detail our conventional systems, even our classified ones, were missing. A specific harmonic resonance that indicated artificial origin. Vance walked over to a massive holographic display that flickered to life in the center of the hangar. It showed a three-dimensional projection of Earth, rendered in exquisite detail, overlaid with complex data streams. These contacts, he swept a hand across a series of faint, looping lines high above the Pacific, extending globally, have been appearing with increasing frequency. They are silent, virtually invisible to standard detection, and they're mapping our critical infrastructure, communication networks, deep-sea cables, strategic military installations, even our deep space tracking arrays. Nay. Elias leaned closer to the display, his eyes already working, dissecting the patterns. The signatures were incredibly faint, almost below the threshold of perception, but he recognized the specific, repeating energy signature. It was exactly what he'd seen. What are they? He asked, his voice low with a mix of awe and dread. We believe they're advanced, high-altitude atmospheric probes, Vance explained, his gaze fixed on the shimmering projections. Unmanned. Stealth. And exhibiting propulsion characteristics that defy our current understanding of aerospace engineering. We call them ghosts. No. Whose are they? Elias asked, his mind already racing, analyzing the data, seeing the terrifying implications of such technology in hostile hands. Vance paused, his expression hardening, his eyes like chips of flint. That, Major, is the question Project Either was created to answer. We have strong indications pointing to a clandestine program from a rival power, a black project far beyond their publicly acknowledged capabilities. But we lack definitive, irrefutable proof. And that's where you come in. Your unique gift is our primary asset. Nushton. Sarah stepped beside him, her presence a comforting anchor in this surreal moment. Your ability to discern these subtle spectral shifts, to differentiate them from environmental noise, to predict their next move, it's unparalleled. You don't just see the data, Elias. You feeling it. You connect the dots that no AI, however advanced, can truly grasp. It's intuition, honed by decades of experience. Elias ran a hand over the holographic projection, his fingers almost brushing the phantom lines of the ghosts. So my career isn't over. It's transferred into the shadows. Nani? Precisely, Vance confirmed. Accepting this assignment means disappearing. No contact with your family, your friends, your former life. As far as the world is concerned, Major Thorne retired to a quiet life, perhaps running a small-town flight school in the Midwest. Your official records will be adjusted. Your reputation, externally, will remain ambiguous. A man who simply faded away. Nah. And if I decline? Elias asked, though he knew the answer already. The thrill of the chase, the undeniable pull of a real mission, one where his unique skills were not only valued but critical, was already taking root deep within him. The thought of returning to Aegis, to the mundane, made his blood run cold. Then you return to that quiet life, Vance replied, his voice devoid of judgment. With a generous classified pension and a very strict non-disclosure agreement. Your talents, however, will be wasted. The threat will continue to grow, undetected by conventional means. And we will lose valuable time. Sarah met his gaze, her eyes reflecting a shared understanding of the sacrifice. It's not an easy choice, Elias. I've been here for 2 years. My family thinks I'm gone. My son, he asks about me less now, I hear. But this is where the real fight is. This is where we can make a difference. The kind of difference that truly protects them. Me. Elias looked from Sarah to Vance, then back to the holographic earth, the faint lines of the ghosts, a silent growing accusation. Everything he'd worked for, his dedication to national security, his very identity as a sentinel of the skies, had led him here. To this hidden hangar, this secret project, this impossible mission. The injustice he'd felt just hours ago now seemed a small price to pay for this clarity of purpose. How many others are there like you? He asked, looking at Sarah. People who disappeared from their posts to serve here in the dark. Enough to staff this entire facility with the best minds and operators in the intelligence community and the military, Vance answered, his voice resonating with pride. Every single person here was chosen specifically because they saw something others missed, developed a skill others couldn't, or possessed a unique insight that made them irreplaceable. We are the Watchers of the Shadows. Nekaden. Elias took a deep breath, the scent of ozone and advanced machinery now a welcome comfort. I need time to think. You have until 600, Vance said, his voice firm, leaving no room for negotiation. After that, our first operational deployment begins. With, or without you. The ghosts don't wait. Nighter. As Vance and Sarah left him alone in the vast hangar, the silence stretched, broken only by the faint hum of unseen machinery. Elias walked towards a gleaming, impossibly sleek aircraft nestled in a far corner. It wasn't a jet, nor a conventional drone. It looked like a fusion of a manta ray and a black diamond, its surface absorbing every photon of light, a testament to impossible engineering. This was the ether itself, he realized, or at least one of its primary assets. The technology was a quantum leap beyond anything he'd ever imagined, purpose-built to pursue and analyze the stealthiest aerial vehicles imaginable. He ran a hand over its cool, smooth skin. He thought about his parents in Arizona, who would never truly understand why he vanished, forever stuck with the official story. He thought about the official narrative, the quiet retirement, the wasted talent, the frustration, the dismissal, the humiliation. It all boiled down to this. A choice between a life of comfortable obscurity, haunted by the knowledge of what he'd seen, or a life on the bleeding edge of the unseen war, a ghost hunting ghosts. A young technician, Lieutenant Miller, entered, carrying a tray with a steaming mug and a sandwich. Captain thought you might be hungry, Major, he said, his voice deferential, but with an underlying current of respect. Thank you, Lieutenant. Elias took the mug, the warmth a welcome anchor in the cool hangar. How long have you been with Project Ether? 7 months, sir. Pulled from a satellite imagery analysis unit at Vandenberg. One day I was tracking weather patterns, routine stuff. The next, I was being told I'd been specially selected for a classified assignment. No questions asked, no goodbyes. Just gone. He shrugged, a weary acceptance in his eyes. My family thinks I'm on an extended, highly sensitive deployment in the Arctic. Limited communications, heavily encrypted. Just enough to say I'm alive. It's hard, sir? The isolation. But the work we're doing here, it matters. We're tracking threats nobody else can even perceive, let alone comprehend. After Miller left, Elias ate mechanically, his gaze fixed on the ether. The more he examined its intricate design, its seemingly impossible curves, the more he understood its capabilities, and why they needed his unique perspective to maximize its effectiveness. His eyes, trained by years of sifting through visual noise, were the ultimate sensor, the final filter. At 5:45, Captain Vance returned, his shadow long in the hangar's dim light. Major decision, Major. Elias stood before the ether, his hand still resting on its cool, smooth hull, a silent pact. If I stay, he said, his voice steady, resolute, I want full access to all raw spectral and visual data you've collected so far. No compartmentalization. If I'm tracking them, if I'm to be the eyes of this project, I need to understand everything we know about them. And everything we don't. Dun-dun-dun. Vance considered this for a moment, a flicker of approval in his eyes. Agreed. With appropriate security protocols, of course. Your access will be total within the scope of our mission. And I want to be involved in strategic planning, not just technical implementation, Elias continued, pushing for more. My insights aren't just about detection, Captain Ain. They're about prediction, about understanding intent, about how to counter. No, I may. Also reasonable, Vance acknowledged, a slight nod of his head. Anything else, Major? Elias turned to face him directly, his gaze firm. When this mission concludes, when these ghosts are understood and neutralized, I want assurances that my service here, however clandestine, will be formally recognized. Not publicly, perhaps, but within the highest echelons of the Air Force. That my record, whatever story was created about my retirement, is officially corrected to reflect my true contributions. I won't be a ghost in my own history. That I can guarantee, Vance said, a rare, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. Everyone who serves aboard Project Ether receives appropriate recognition, albeit through classified channels. Your service here will accelerate your career, Major. Not hinder it. You'll be a ghost with an unseen legacy, but a legacy nonetheless. Elias took a deep breath, the finality of his decision settling over him like a second skin. Then my old life can be erased. My old car, my old apartment, my old name, if necessary. I'm staying. And I know. Relief, subtle but profound, crossed Vance's face briefly before his professional demeanor returned, like a shutter closing. Welcome aboard, Major Thorne. Prepare for launch. Our first operational deployment begins in 15 minutes. Lieutenant Miller, prepare the ether for ascent. His order transmitted through a discreet earpiece, echoing faintly in the vast hangar. Throughout the massive space, a low hum began to build, growing in intensity. Elias felt the floor vibrate beneath his feet, as the ether's gravito-inertial systems powered up. He watched as a section of the hangar roof silently retracted, a vast aperture opening to reveal the pre-dawn sky, studded with the last lingering stars. This was his element now, the silent, pressure-filled world above the clouds, where spectral signatures told stories that human eyes, unaided, could never see. Your station is ready whenever you are, Vance said. The mission brief will begin inside the Ether's command center at 615. After Vance left, Sarah approached, holding out a small, heavy object. It was a challenge coin, polished obsidian, cool and smooth against his palm, with an intricate stylized falcon etched into its surface. No unit designation. No rank. Just the falcon, its wings spread, its eyes piercing, a silent hunter. Figured you might want this, she said, her voice softer now. It's the Aether coin. Our version of a unit patch. Our badge of honor. Elias took the coin, running his thumb over the modified design. How many others are there like us, Sarah? People who disappeared from their posts to serve here in the dark? No, yeah. Enough to make a difference, she replied, her gaze distant, fixed on the ascending ether. Each of us was chosen because we noticed something others missed, developed something others couldn't, or possessed skills that made us irreplaceable. We're the ones who see what isn't supposed to be seen. The ones who stand guard against the invisible. No. And nobody talks about the people who vanish, Elias mused, the coin feeling heavier now. They talk, Sarah said with a slight, almost melancholic smile. But what can they prove? Officers get transferred all the time, sometimes under unusual circumstances. Or they just retire, fade away. It's a convenient fiction. Now, the ether continued its slow, deliberate ascent, a silent, dark silhouette against the burgeoning dawn. Through the hangar's open roof, Elias could already feel the subtle shifts in air pressure, the silent hum of advanced propulsion. He should prepare for the briefing. One more thing, Sarah hesitated, her eyes serious. The crew aboard this platform has formed a different kind of camaraderie than what you're used to on conventional air wings. We're all people who've been separated from our normal lives to serve here. That creates a special, sometimes heavy, bond. We are each other's family now. I understand, Elias said, looking at the coin in his hand, feeling the weight of the unspoken. Do you? Sarah studied his face, her eyes reflecting the growing light of the desert dawn. Because once we're airborne, once we reach operational altitude, there's no going back. Not for months. Not for years, perhaps. Not until the mission is complete, or we are no longer needed. Many. Elias thought of the desert receding below, of the life he was leaving behind, temporarily or permanently. He couldn't be sure. He thought of the ridicule, the dismissal, the injustice. He thought of the ghost signatures, the silent, unseen threat. He thought of Sarah, standing beside him, a living testament to the cost of this service. I understand better than you might think, he replied, his voice firm, unwavering. Some missions require sacrifices that can't be explained to others. Sacrifices of identity, of connection, of public recognition. I accepted that when I took the oath, and I accept it now. The oath is to the nation, not to a career path. Mandini. Sarah nodded, satisfied. Then I'll see you at the briefing. Welcome home, Elias. Truly. I did it. Hard die. Left alone, Elias climbed the short ramp into the ether's main hatch. The interior was sleek, minimalist, bathed in soft, diffused light from hidden panels. He found his assigned workstation, a console dominated by a panoramic display that would soon show the world from 1,000 miles up. As his fingers moved across the controls, familiarizing himself with its advanced capabilities, a sense of profound rightness settled over him. Despite the secrecy and abrupt transition, he was exactly where he needed to be. High above the world, hunting ghosts that shouldn't exist, aboard a platform that didn't officially exist. This was where his skills, his unique vision, could make the difference between security and vulnerability for the nation he'd sworn to protect. The Aether continued its silent ascent into the darkness, a black arrow piercing the dawn, carrying its hand-picked crew of specialists deeper into a classified world where conventional rules and recognition no longer applied. For Elias Thorne, the journey had just begun. Wow! The Aether's primary command center was a marvel of ergonomic design and futuristic technology, a cockpit spanning an entire deck. Holographic displays shimmered, projecting real-time atmospheric data, orbital trajectories, and spectral analyses across the vast room. Elias recognized Lieutenant Miller at a sensor station, his face illuminated by the soft glow of his monitor, eyes already distant, focused on the data stream. Captain Vance stood at the central command table, a three-dimensional projection of Earth rotating slowly above it, a sapphire jewel against the infinite black. Now that Major Thorne has joined us, we can begin, Vance announced, his voice calm, authoritative, carrying effortlessly through the hushed space. For those who haven't met him, Major Thorne is our new spectral analysis specialist, transferred from Aegis Solutions. His unique methodology was responsible for our initial detection of the UAPs we're tracking. Nanda guy. Nods of acknowledgement rippled through the room. Some faces were appreciative. A few held a keen appraising curiosity, measuring the new arrival. Elias committed each face to memory, noting their subtle reactions. Lieutenant Commander Anya Sharma, the executive officer, her eyes sharp and intelligent, a flicker of shared understanding in her gaze. Eris Thorne, a civilian theoretical physicist from MIT, his wild, unkempt hair a stark contrast to the crew's precise cuts, already lost in thought. Chief Master Sergeant Macmillan, the flight chief, a man whose hands looked like they could fix anything from a broken engine to a broken spirit. Sarah, his former wingmate, was at the tactical station, her fingers dancing across a haptic interface, already immersed in the mission. 6 weeks ago, Major Thorne detected an atmospheric anomaly near the Mariana Trench, Vance began, activating a display that showed the faint, looping lines Elias had seen earlier, now with more historical data. Since then, we've tracked similar signatures across the Pacific, the Atlantic, and even over parts of Europe. These are unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, using advanced gravito-inertial propulsion systems that make them virtually undetectable to conventional radar or thermal imaging. They leave no wake, no exhaust, no sonic boom. Nair. Dr. Eris Thorne, his eyes lighting up with academic enthusiasm, took over. We believe these are part of a highly advanced clandestine surveillance program, designed to map vulnerabilities in our global communication infrastructure, particularly around key strategic nodes in the Pacific and European theaters, but also deep space tracking arrays and critical energy grids. He activated a display showing detailed imagery of a sleek, black, triangular drone, approximately 50 feet in length, its surface a seamless, light-absorbing material. This is our best rendering based on limited visual data and spectral reconstruction. The UAPs operate primarily between 80,000 and 120,000 feet. High enough to avoid conventional air traffic control, but low enough to effectively map and monitor our ground-based assets with precision. What makes them so quiet, so invisible? Elias asked, studying the rendering, his mind already dissecting its theoretical capabilities. They utilize a form of gravito-inertial propulsion, Dr. Thorne explained, almost gleefully. No conventional engines, no propellers, no moving external parts. They generate thrust by manipulating localized gravitational fields, allowing for near-silent operation with virtually no wake or sonic boom. It's a technology that officially shouldn't exist. Lieutenant Commander Sharma, her voice clipped and precise, added, "We believe they're deployed from a mother platform, likely a high-altitude airship disguised as a civilian weather research station, operating in international airspace. Our intelligence suggests a network of these cloud seekers are strategically positioned globally." Our mission, Vance continued, his gaze sweeping across the room, encompassing each specialist, is threefold. First, track and document these UAPs to establish patterns of operation and their full global reach. Second, collect definitive, irrefutable evidence of their capabilities and purpose. Third, if authorized, neutralize selected units for technical analysis and to disrupt their network. He turned to Elias, his eyes locking. This is where your expertise becomes vital, Major. Your unique visual and spectral analysis methods detected these units when nothing else could. We need you to refine that capability further. Help us distinguish between individual units, predict their movements with greater accuracy, and potentially develop countermeasures that exploit their unique spectral weaknesses. Elias studied the data scrolling across the displays, the complex patterns of light and energy. I'll need access to all raw spectral and visual data you've collected so far, along with any historical atmospheric anomalies and a direct feed from our own sensor arrays. I want to build a predictive model, not just a detection one. Amount already loaded into your station, Major, Lieutenant Miller confirmed, his fingers flying across his console, along with comparative baselines from known aerial vehicles, atmospheric phenomena, and even some speculative theoretical signatures. Captain Vance concluded the briefing with operational assignments and watch schedules, the details of their clandestine war unfolding with chilling clarity. As the meeting dispersed, he gestured for Elias to remain behind. When they were alone, Vance's posture relaxed slightly, a man carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. There's something you should know, Major. The Pentagon isn't fully convinced these UAPs pose a significant threat. Some analysts, despite our evidence, still believe they're legitimate, albeit highly advanced research tools from a foreign power. Our operation exists in a very precarious gray area. Authorized, but not enthusiastically supported. We are a necessary evil, in the eyes of some. Duh. Which means if things go wrong, Elias observed, his voice flat, the reality of their isolation sinking in, we're on our own. No official recognition, no backup, no cavalry. Nay. Precisely, Vance affirmed, his gaze unwavering. Project Aether has powerful advocates, men and women who believe in the unseen threat, but equally powerful skeptics who fear the political fallout of acknowledging such capabilities. Our findings need to be irrefutable, beyond any doubt. So damning that no one, not even the most entrenched bureaucrat, can deny them. This explained the extraordinary secrecy, Elias, the layers of obfuscation and plausible deniability. Not just operational security, but political caution on a global scale. Understood, Captain Neen. I'll make sure my analysis is bulletproof. Airtight. None me. Over the next several weeks, Elias immersed himself in the Aether's routine and mission. The platform operated on a schedule, unlike conventional military units, constantly shifting its high-altitude position, rarely following predictable patterns, maintaining extreme electromagnetic and spectral discipline at all times. The Spectral Analysis Lab became his domain, a sanctuary of purpose. He spent hours analyzing subtle variations in the UAP signatures, developing enhanced detection algorithms based on his unique human pattern recognition, a sixth sense for the anomalous, and working closely with Miller to implement them across the Aether's advanced sensor array. He felt a resurgence of the sharp analytical mind that had made him legendary. There, he said one night, his voice hushed with discovery, pointing to a nearly imperceptible pattern in the spectral data, a faint, rhythmic pulse. That's not random atmospheric noise. That's a communication pulse. A high-frequency, encrypted handshake between units. None. Miller adjusted the filters, his eyes widening. You're right, Major. It's faint, almost subliminal, but definitely structured. The UAPs are talking to each other, coordinating their movements, like a hive mind. This discovery accelerated their understanding of the UAP network exponentially. By tracking these communication pulses, they began mapping the full extent of the drone deployment, not dozens, but hundreds of units in a sophisticated interconnected grid, covering critical strategic areas globally, from the depths of the ocean to the highest mountain ranges. One evening, while working late in the spectral lab, the only sound the soft hum of the Aether systems, Sarah brought Elias a cup of coffee, the rich aroma a welcome intrusion. "How are you adjusting to life as a ghost, Elias?" she asked, taking a seat nearby, her eyes reflecting the console's glow. Elias accepted the coffee gratefully, the warmth seeping into his hands. "Better than I expected, though I still wake up sometimes thinking I'm back at Aegis, staring at spreadsheets and fighting with Henderson's ghost." He took a sip. "This coffee's better too." "That fades eventually," Sarah assured him, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "For me, it was about 6 months before Project Aether truly felt like home." Home is a strong word for a classified airship, even one this sophisticated, constantly moving, constantly in the dark. "Shade Shah. Body Sinti Moro." Sarah's smile softened. It's not about the vessel, Elias. It's about purpose. Everyone here was chosen because they saw something others missed or developed skills others don't have it. There's a clarity to our mission that's rare in regular service. No bureaucracy, no political games, no public fanfare. Just the work. The essential work. Elias considered this, the truth of her words resonating deep within him. You're right. At Aegis, I spent half my time on administrative duties and appeasing clients who cared more about profit margins than national security. Here, it's just the work. Pure. Unfiltered. The stakes are real. Dune. Exactly, Sarah said. No distractions, no red tape, just the mission. The world out there sleeps soundly because we're up here, sleepless. As she left, Elias returned to his analysis, appreciating anew the unique environment of Project Ether. Despite the secrecy and isolation, there was something profoundly liberating about focusing purely on the technical challenges, the intellectual puzzle, without the usual military politics and public scrutiny. He was truly free to do what he did best. 6 weeks into the mission, they got their breakthrough. The Aether had been shadowing a supposed civilian, meteorological research airship, the Y Cloud Seeker 3, for 3 days, maintaining a safe distance and an undetectable spectral signature while monitoring its activities. This was their prime suspect, a vessel registered to a shell corporation in a neutral nation, but whose erratic movements and unusual energy readings had long flagged it for suspicion. Captain to the command center. Miller's voice, tight with urgency, announced over the intercom. Possible deployment in progress. Multiple energy signatures detected from the Y-Cloud Seeker. Dear. Vance arrived seconds before Elias, his face grim. Together, they watched as Miller displayed the spectral feed on the main screen, a complex tapestry of data. There, Miller pointed, his finger tracing a new distinct signature emerging from the Y-Cloud Seeker's underbelly. Classic deployment signature. 3 distinct launch events. Very low power, almost silent on standard sensors. Me. Elias listened carefully through his headset, his eyes scanning the data, his mind already extrapolating trajectories. Confirmed. That's a launch sequence. At least 3 units. Track them, Miller, Vance ordered, his voice low, controlled. But maintain our distance. We observe only for now. We need irrefutable proof. Over the next 12 hours, they monitored as the newly deployed UAPS ascended to operational altitude and began systematic survey patterns along the Earth's surface. Their path corresponded precisely with the location of critical undersea data cables, major satellite ground stations, and even the approach corridors for strategic air defenses connecting continents. The pattern was chillingly deliberate. This isn't meteorological research, Sharma observed grimly, her jaw tight. They're mapping our communications infrastructure, our vulnerabilities, our entire nervous system. And now we have irrefutable proof, Vance said, his voice hard. He turned to Dar. Thorne. Prepare a comprehensive analysis for immediate transmission to Stratcom and the National Security Council. Include Major Thorne's predictive models and Miller's real-time spectral capture. For 3 more days, they gathered evidence, documenting the UAPS movements with meticulous precision. Elias worked continuously, refining detection parameters, enhancing his predictive algorithms, and tracking communication patterns between the units, building a complete picture of the network's intent. They're not just mapping, he reported during the 3rd day of surveillance, his voice strained from lack of sleep but crackling with discovery. They're placing something at regular intervals along the cable routes and near the ground stations. Small, low-power emitters. Almost imperceptible, but they're there. And they're active. Sensors, Sharma suggested, her hand hovering over a comms panel. Or worse, Vance replied, his eyes narrowed. Potentially devices capable of tapping into data streams, of diverting information, or even acting as remote detonators for a larger coordinated attack on our digital backbone. A silent, crippling strike. The implications were clear and disturbing. These weren't benign research tools, but strategic assets designed to target critical infrastructure, a prelude to a new kind of war. With sufficient evidence compiled, Vance received new orders from command. A single, encrypted burst. "We're authorized for Phase 3, he announced to the senior staff, his voice cutting through the tension. Selective neutralization of a single unit for recovery and analysis. The operation requires perfect execution. The Ether must capture a UAP without alerting either the other units or the mother platform to our presence. No trace. No ripple. Demo. After days of preparation and tactical planning, they selected their target. A UAP operating somewhat apart from the main group, near a remote uninhabited island chain in the Pacific, its spectral signature momentarily isolated. Under Elias's spectral guidance, the Ether maneuvered silently into position, its gravito-inertial propulsion humming almost imperceptibly, a phantom in the upper atmosphere. Specialized capture mechanisms extended from the Ether's underbelly, not nets, but a focused energy field designed to disrupt the UAP's propulsion and allow for a controlled retrieval into the Ether's cargo bay. "Contact in 30 seconds, Miller reported, eyes fixed on his spectral display, his breath held. "All stations silent running," Vance ordered, his voice a low command. Spectral discipline is absolute. Every whisper, every pulse, must be contained. The tension in the command center was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife, as they closed the final distance. Elias monitored the UAP's signature continuously, his senses stretched to their limit, alert for any change that might indicate it had detected their presence. 10 seconds. Miller counted down, his voice a strained whisper. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The capture field deployed, enveloping the UAP in a shimmering distortion before it could transmit any alert signal. The Ether systems whined, a deep, resonant sound of immense power. Recovery teams raced to secure it in a shielded compartment designed to block any emergency transmissions, any last gasp of data. "Target secured," Sharma reported, her voice laced with relief. No apparent alert signals detected. Clean capture. Like it vanished into thin air. A collective breath of relief passed through the control room, a silent exhalation. "Well done, everyone," Vance acknowledged, a rare hint of satisfaction in his voice. "Now, let's see what we've caught, and what it can tell us." And the other mouth. The recovered UAP proved to be a technological marvel, far more advanced than even their intelligence suggested. Dr. L. Thorne led the analysis team, working around the clock in the dedicated science bay to document its capabilities. "This confirms our worst-case scenario, Captain," he reported after 48 hours of frantic examination, his face smudged with grease, eyes red-rimmed but alight with scientific triumph. "The UAP contains both advanced surveillance equipment and deployable packages designed to tap into data streams passing through undersea cables and satellite uplinks. It's a full-spectrum espionage platform." And, he paused, his eyes wide with a mix of awe and dread. "It contains a self-destruct mechanism that would have vaporized it to molecular dust if triggered. Designed to leave no trace. Definitive evidence of hostile intent, Captain. This isn't about research. This is about control." "And..." Vance nodded, his expression grim, the victory tasting like ash. "Prepare all findings for secure transmission to command. This changes everything. The world needs to see this." Me. That night, Elias sat alone in the Ether's small, Spartan mess hall, the quiet hum of the platform a constant companion. He contemplated the significance of their discovery, the weight of the truth. The coffee, black and bitter, did little to cut through the exhaustion. The door opened and Captain Vance entered, looking weary but satisfied, a ghost of a smile on his lips. "You should be resting, Major," he said, pouring himself coffee before joining Elias at the warm table. "You've earned it. A truly exceptional piece of work." No. Just processing everything, Elias replied, running a hand over his tired eyes. 6 weeks ago, I was being publicly shamed for seeing a ghost. Now I'm helping document a major security threat that most of the world doesn't know exists. A threat that, if ignored, could cripple us. No, dear. That's the nature of our work, Major, Vance said simply, taking a long sip of his coffee. Critical operations that never make the daily briefings or history books. What happens now? No. Now, the real diplomacy begins, Vance replied, his gaze distant, focused on the unseen battles to come. Our evidence, irrefutable as it is, will be presented through classified channels. Formal protests will be lodged, international pressure will be applied, but without revealing our capabilities or methods. The world will react, but they won't know on how we know. Now wait. And Project Aether continues its mission, Elias finished, a quiet understanding dawning. Precisely, Vance affirmed. There will always be threats beneath the radar, Major. Always adversaries developing technologies they think can't be detected. Always new shadows to explore. And always people like us, Elias concluded, looking at the obsidian coin in his hand, disappearing to find them. To fight them? No, baby. Vance nodded thoughtfully, a profound weariness in his eyes. Not everyone is suited for this life. The isolation, the secrecy, the burden of knowledge. It takes a particular mindset to understand that some victories must remain uncelebrated, that the greatest impact is often made in the deepest shadows by those who choose to be forgotten. Dirty. As if to emphasize his point, Lieutenant Miller appeared at the door, his face serious. Captain, priority message from command. Urgent. Direct from the National Security Advisor. Naimarabe, Ioware. Vance excused himself, leaving Elias to reflect on his new reality. He thought about his former colleagues at Aegis, who likely believed he'd gone off the deep end, a bitter, paranoid veteran. He thought about his family receiving only occasional, heavily censored communications from his supposed extended Arctic deployment. Yet, despite these costs, he felt a deepening sense of purpose, a profound rightness in his choice. The work here mattered in ways that transcended normal military operations. Project Aether and its mission existed at the cutting edge of national security, operating in shadows where conventional forces could not, protecting a world that would never know it needed protecting. 5 months into his deployment, Elias had fully integrated into the Aether's unique culture. His spectral detection systems had identified 3 more UAP networks operating in different regions of the globe, each more complex than the last. Each discovery had led to careful documentation and selective neutralization operations, building an irrefutable case against the clandestine program, forcing global powers to acknowledge a threat they couldn't see. During a rare quiet moment, Elias stood in the Aether's small observation room, staring out through thick viewports at the perpetual darkness of the high-altitude night. Below, the Earth's curvature was visible, a shimmering blue marble against the inky blackness of space. The scattered lights of human civilization, a distant, fragile glow. Captain Vance joined him, his reflection appearing in the glass, a twin sentinel. "Command is pleased with our progress, Major," he said, his voice low. "The evidence we've gathered has already prompted significant policy changes at the highest levels. Covert countermeasures are being developed. New defense doctrines are being written. Your work has fundamentally shifted the global strategic landscape." "But the public will never know," Elias observed, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. "No, they won't. That's the paradox of our service, Major. The more successful we are, the less recognition we receive. Our victory is their continued ignorance, their peace of mind." "No, I'm not concerned about recognition," Elias assured him, turning from the viewport to face the captain. "But I do wonder about my future. My 6 months is nearly up." "And Sarah?" She said her son is asking about her more now. Actually," Vance said, a rare, genuine smile gracing his lips, I wanted to discuss that with you. Command has authorized me to offer you a permanent position aboard the Ether as our executive officer. Lieutenant Commander Sharma is transferring next month. She's been selected to command the next platform in the Ether class, the Sentinel. The offer was both flattering and daunting. A significant career advancement, a testament to his undeniable value, but also a deeper, seemingly permanent commitment to this shadow existence, this life as a ghost. I'd need time to consider, Elias said, the words a reflex. Of course. But I should mention that if you accept, there would be a controlled reconnection with your previous life. A carefully managed story explaining your absence, validating your service record, perhaps even a public commendation for classified project work that would allow you to interact with your family more freely, albeit with continued secrecy about your geo work. You'd be a ghost, but one who could occasionally walk among the living. And if I decline, then you return to the regular Air Force with a classified commendation for your Hawaii special project work. Your career would advance normally. You'd be celebrated within the ranks. You would be a hero, but only to yourself. Nay. Elias nodded, understanding the choice before him. A public life, respected but contained, or a secret life, critical but invisible, yet with the faint possibility of controlled connection. The weight of his decision pressed in. When do you need my answer? Take the week, Vance said, placing a hand on Elias's shoulder. This isn't a decision to rush. It's a life. As Vance left, Elias returned his gaze to the viewport. Beyond the glass, in the infinite darkness of near space, a world of hidden threats and silent guardians existed beyond the awareness of those they protected. He thought of Sarah, her sacrifice, her longing for her son. He thought of the ghosts, still out there, waiting. Whatever he decided, he knew his perspective had been permanently altered. Some battles happen in plain sight, with flags waving and medals presented afterward. But the most crucial conflicts occurred in silence and shadow, where victory meant preventing war rather than winning it. Where success meant nobody ever knew there was a threat at all, and the heroes remained nameless, faceless, forgotten by history. The Aether continued its silent patrol through the upper atmosphere, a sentinel against the unseen. Its mission and crew invisible to the world below. Its purpose, clear only to those who had chosen to serve beneath the veil of secrecy, to be the ghosts who hunted ghosts. Elias felt the faint hum of its engines, the subtle vibrations of its advanced systems, a symphony of unseen power. He was a sentinel in the dark, and for the first time in years, despite the cost, he felt truly alive. The ghosts he hunted were real, and so was his purpose. And perhaps, just perhaps, he could find a way to be a ghost who still had a family. The week stretched before him, a vast, silent expanse, much like the sky outside. The choice was his.